Hey everybody, how's it going? This is Big Lair on Jack's Private Coffee Corner. I'm coming to you live in Nagoya, Japan. This is going to be the second video I'm doing on the coronavirus and the outbreak here in Japan, what I'm seeing on the ground. Okay, in the first video, I was telling you guys I made a list of things. I made a list of things that I think could happen. And I made my first video because the first thing on my list, some kids getting the virus, happened. So I thought I should make the video, give everybody a heads up on what I think is going to happen. And now a few more things on my list have been checked off. And so I thought, man, this is happening faster than I could have even thought. So I just want to let everybody know what's going on. Okay, so I told you guys in the last video, two brothers, got the coronavirus. They tested positive, and they went to a school, an elementary school that had about 200 kids. So the school's going to keep everybody home. Of course, you know, people are very worried, freaked out, I guess would be a better way to say it. And this was in Hokkaido, the northern island of Japan. Now, Japan has basically four islands. There's the main island, Honshu. Then you have Hokkaido, which is, you know, the northern island. And then there's two southern islands, Kyushu and Shikoku. So this is Hokkaido, which is up pretty high. I think, let's see, I'm from Wisconsin. And Wisconsin is around the same, latitude as Hokkaido. So it's a pretty cold place, although in Wisconsin, we get much colder temperatures. Okay, anyway, so a pretty cold area. And they're having a pretty, what can I say, normal winter in Hokkaido. So anyway, two kids tested positive. It's kind of strange, you know, why Hokkaido is the first place for this to happen, I don't know. There's less people in Hokkaido than other areas, than the other islands, I think. However, Hokkaido is a place that gets a ton of Chinese tourists every year, especially during the winter season. I would guess they haven't had too many, but I'm guessing they did get some before this came out into the public, right? They did have a number of Chinese tourists who were there before anyone even knew what the coronavirus was. I mean, they're calling this what? What's the official name? It's like SARS-2 or SARS coronavirus 2 or something, I forget. But there's an actual, you know, some people are calling it the 2019 coronavirus. And I've seen some reports where they're calling it SARS-2 corona or SARS corona 2, however they want to say it. So before we even knew about this virus, I'm sure there were lots of Chinese tourists, which there are every year, that went to Hokkaido for skiing. It's a big place for skiing, and they have this, what do they call it, an ice festival in Sapporo. Sapporo is like the biggest city in Hokkaido. They have this ice festival where they do, or maybe it's a snow festival, I forget the actual name in English, but people all over Japan, they come and make these huge like snow sculptures. And they have a big competition every year. So there's a lot of reasons that people would go to Hokkaido over the winter holiday. Okay, so possibly that's where these kids got it, somewhere there. We don't know. They're not saying how these kids got it or how they think they got it. Okay, now what was next on my list? Next on my list was a teacher getting it. Well, I saw that 2 days ago. I really wanted to make a video for you guys yesterday, but I was quite busy. Just couldn't find the time. So today here, it's 9:30 at night, so it's a little late. I apologize. Had a lot of stuff on my plate today. Things I had to do. So here I am. A teacher, I believe on February 12th, a teacher, I've got some notes here, so if you see me looking off to the side, I'm just checking out my notes. A junior high school teacher on February 12th, if I'm not mistaken, because I watched the news report in Japanese 2 days ago. On the 12th, she thought she had a fever. Actually, she had a fever. It was like, in Celsius, it was over 38 degrees. So if you're dealing in Fahrenheit, I'm sorry, you're going to have to, figure it out yourself. I haven't figured it out before the video here. I know in America we use Fahrenheit, but the rest of the world uses Celsius. Anyway, she had a fever. Knew she had a fever. Went to school anyway. and gave exams for 2 days to her students. Now, this is the time of year when a lot of final exams are taking place because the school year in Japan, as I mentioned in my last video, the school year starts in April and finishes in March. So we're into February here. A lot of schools are giving their final exam, and then some schools, like if you're graduating like junior high school, you're going to be getting ready for your high school entrance exam, I believe. So there are some entrance exams taking place in the very near future here. But final exams are taking place. So this teacher on the 12th, this is what I heard on the news report, knew she had a fever and went to school anyway for 2 days, gave exams to all of her classes. Then I believe it was a weekend. And then she went back on the following Monday and gave back the results, gave the tests back to her students, still feeling terrible. And the next day, she felt so bad she had to leave school, went to the hospital, gets tested, bam, she's got the coronavirus. And I'm thinking, what is this? What was this person thinking? You know, I've been a teacher for over 20 years. I've been a teacher trainer for over 10 years. I've worked with teachers in a number of countries. I've seen some crazy stuff. I've seen great teachers, I've seen terrible teachers. And you know, one thing a lot of people think is, oh, because this person's a teacher, they're more on the ball than other people, they're smarter than other people, they have more common sense than other people. That's not true at all. That's not true at all. You'd be surprised if you could see some of the people I've seen who are teachers. I've seen some good ones, don't get me wrong. I've seen some fantastic teachers, and I've seen some really terrible teachers. You know, just people who aren't, you know, they're not running on all cylinders. You know, they're one beer short of a six-pack. They're not the sharpest knife in the drawer, whatever you want to say. So I'm wondering, what was this person thinking? It's been all over the news the last few weeks. If you think you have a fever or if you have these symptoms, go and get checked. Now, it didn't say if she got checked or not. Didn't say that. But anyway, and maybe she was thinking, hey, she's in Hokkaido also. Maybe she's thinking, well, I'm way out here, you know, in the boonies kind of, in this whatever town she's in. I can see the town, but I won't say it. Anyway, now let's see. Oh, now my notes are telling me this teacher was not in Hokkaido. She was in Chiba. Okay, so the original report I saw said a teacher in Hokkaido. Now that I'm looking at my notes here, it says Chiba. So maybe between the TV and the newspaper, because I looked at the newspapers also to get some notes, they might have made a mistake. So let's just say some teacher in her 60s, a woman, a female teacher in her 60s, she went to school and this happened. Okay, now this is the next scenario. So you get a teacher with it. So all the students potentially could get the virus. All of the teachers in the teacher's room, because in Japan, most of the teachers are all in one huge room together for their lunch hour. You know, they're planning, their desks are all there. So now this city where this woman is from, the Board of Education has asked like 3,900 teachers and staff, you know, that are in this public school system with this person. Geez, have you had any strange symptoms over the last 2 weeks? And I would say, Jesus Christ, man, you can't be asking Japanese people if you've had any symptoms or if you feel all right. This is a culture where people talk about, you know, gambaru. Gambaru means try your best. Gambari-san, someone who always tries their hardest no matter what. You know, people here, how can I say it? It reminds me of Catholics in a way. And if you're Catholic, you know, please don't be offended by this, but I've known a lot of Catholic people in my life. And this is older Catholics, older people who were like my grandparents' age. Those people went through some tough times in their life, right? A lot of them went through the Depression. They went through World War II. And a lot of people, now I'm just using Catholics as an example. You could pick anyone who's a very serious Christian. A lot of people that I met in my life had this idea that the tougher your life was here on earth, the better you would have it in heaven. And so they didn't mind having a tough life. And some people almost seem to relish having a very hard life, being put through hard conditions, because they would say, well, my life is hard now, and that means it's going to be that much better in heaven. So whether you agree with that statement or not is beside the point. I just want to say that a lot of Japanese people are the same way. They go through something tough, they go through hard times. It's almost like a badge of honor to see what kind of crap you can go through in life and still get out of it, right? Of course, you don't really get out of it because we all, end up 6 feet under anyway, but they just have this idea that, if you go through really tough times, that somehow makes you a better person. So because of that mindset, people will put up with a lot of crap. Now, Japan also has like the highest suicide rate of anywhere in the world. So, this idea of, do your best, ganbatte ne, do your best, don't give up, works for some people, but other people it's just too much pressure and they take their own life. So asking a Japanese person, hey, you been feeling okay? I already know that most of the teachers are going to be like, no, I'm fine. Even if they have something, they're going to tell you they're fine. And I'll tell you why in a second. I mean, not just because of this mentality of, struggling through life is not a righteous thing. Struggling through life is an admirable thing to do. Okay, so you have that. Now, what else is going to happen? Okay, and this next story is going to highlight something else that the teachers are probably worried about. Now, there's this association called the Japanese Association of Disaster Management. And some of the people in this association for disaster management, they were the ones who helped transport people from the cruise ship, the Diamond Princess. They were transporting people, back and forth. The article didn't give details whether they transported. I'm guessing they didn't transport anyone who was infected. That would have been ambulance drivers. But it also could have been, this is a, disaster management association. They might have transported people who had the virus, but they'd be wearing protective gear. And then they may have transported people who got the okay, the medical okay. Hey, you're okay, you don't have the virus. We're going to take you from the ship and, take you to the station or wherever. So those people, they were just the transport, simply the transport. Now those people said, this has come out now, that some of those workers are experiencing prejudice and workplace bullying because they helped these people with the coronavirus, or people who possibly could get the coronavirus. Because they helped these people as part of their job or part of volunteering or whatever, they're being treated poorly at their workplaces. And they're being treated, quote, as this article that I got this from, they're being treated as though they themselves are infected. And, because in Japan, I don't know how it is in America or wherever you are, but, if you live in a neighborhood, you kind of know, like, oh, so-and-so, he works at the city hall, so-and-so is a firefighter, oh, that guy over there, he works at, he manages a McDonald's, and that guy there works at Toyota. You kind of know what everybody does. So the people, I have something in my room that's moving. I have this bag that's moving on its own. That's kind of weird. Anyway, we'll see if something like busts out of there. Anyway, so you know who all your neighbors are and where they work. So these people here, they're being asked by like the schools, like they're, some of their kids are in nursery schools or kindergartens. They're being asked to keep their kids at home because people know where they work. And they're worried that, hey, you might have gotten the coronavirus. Now your kids might have, and you're going to give it to all of us. So they're experiencing prejudice and workplace bullying because of their role in helping out these people on the Diamond Princess. And that's exactly another reason why none of the teachers are going to want to get tested for this thing. And maybe that's the reason why this other lady who had a fever and didn't feel good put up with it until she was so bad she was almost physically incapacitated, because she knew that, boy, if she has this thing, everyone's your friend until they think you have, a contagious virus, right? And she just knew that, oh man, people won't look at me the same. And that's a huge thing in Japan, to be, bullied like that, and for something like that. Japanese love to bully people who are not part of their group. And I think my kids being half, American or half Japanese, they get crap at school from kids. Kids will say, hey, you're only half Japanese, you're only this, you're only that. Too bad, you're a loser, whatever. That's just the Japan mentality. It goes probably back to their isolationist history, when, they were a very closed off country, and, they didn't want contact with outside influences. So I don't know, but that's just how it is. So isn't it funny that even being a Japanese person yourself, they're getting bullied at work and they're experiencing prejudice because of it? So that's something else I wanted to note. Okay, now another thing I came across today is that, okay, we've got highways here in Japan, highways, tollways they call them. And if you use the highways, many of the highways you have to pay to drive on them. They're very expensive. Oh my God, they're so expensive. So, when you're on these things, you can either pay in cash, or they have like a card, looks like a credit card. They call it an ETC card. And you actually have a little ETC reader machine in your car. You put your credit card or this little card in it, and that allows you to, enter the highway and exit the highway without passing money to anybody. It just gets deducted off your credit card, right? A lot of people don't have it. Now in my car, I've got one, but I don't have the credit card. My credit card for this particular thing expired, and I just never renewed it, because for a number of years I was away from Japan. Then I came back to Japan. I just haven't redone it. So I actually, if I use the highway, I have to stop and hand somebody money. You drive up, you hand them your little ticket that you got, and they say, oh, you owe $25 or whatever. And you just pay them. Okay, so they've got workers at these things, and they're all over. They're all over on the highways. Well, guess what? One of the workers for the tollways near Nagoya, and supposedly it's a guy, he doesn't actually work at the tollway, but he transports the workers around to the different tollways. Like he drops them off and picks them up, I guess is what it is. The news report on the radio I heard, made it sound a little different, but when I came home and checked the online newspaper, that was the story they had. He's a driver for them. Now they may have changed the story. When I first heard it on the radio, that might have been the first time it came out, and then they realized, oh, people are going to panic if they think it's the toll worker. If it's the guy taking your money and he's got the coronavirus, people are going to be upset. We'll just say he's the guy that drives the workers. So I don't know which one it is. I heard one on the radio, and I'm reading a different version in the newspaper. But because of this now, 50-some workers just in my area that work at these toll booths have been told, stay home, self-quarantine. And they're going to have to shut down some of these toll booths because they just don't have enough people now to man them. So imagine that. I never thought about that. I mean, I did put down transportation as far as trains goes, and how that's going to possibly be affected. I'm waiting for that. But I didn't think about the tollways. So just imagine now you're in a car, and so if you don't have this ETC credit card thing, now there's probably parts of the highway you can't get off on. I don't know how they're going to do that, because not everybody has this card. What are they going to tell you? Oh, you want to drive from point A to point B? Well, point B is closed. You can't get off there. There's no workers there. How's that going to work? So I can see, wow, transportation is already being affected in Japan. And what I'm waiting for now, in fact, tonight, my wife finished work, I picked her up, and there's a fast food place that we like. It's called MOS Burger, M-O-S, MOS Burger they call it. It's like McDonald's, but just imagine if McDonald's had, everything was fresh. Like you had like green lettuce, and you actually had juicy red tomatoes, and the burger was actually 100% beef. And you could see them cooking it in the back, and it's beef, right? And you see them pull it out, it looks like beef. It's not gray like McDonald's was, or maybe still is. I don't eat at McDonald's, but I just know the quality wasn't so good for a number of years. But anyway, so it's like a fast food place, but they actually make your burger from scratch, from fresh ingredients, and they've got like a billboard up, and it says, oh, today the lettuce came from, Mr. and Mrs. so-and-so's farm in this area, in this city, in this prefecture. And the tomatoes came from here and whatnot. So we went there. And one of the reasons we went there is I'm thinking I won't be able to go there much longer. I don't eat there a lot, but it's kind of a nice place to have a good burger. So we were sitting there, and there weren't many people. I was surprised. It's a Sunday evening. It was around dinner time, and that place is usually jam-packed. And I thought we'd have to go through the drive-thru. No, there's only like 4 tables with people sitting at it, and 3 of the tables just had one person. So we go in there, and we order. And we're talking about the news of the toll booth worker, right? And I said to my wife, oh, what's going to be next? A place like this. One of the workers at a place like this is going to get the coronavirus. They're going to have to close the whole restaurant down. And then just think of how many customers come through a place like this. It's got to be hundreds a day, right? So that'll be the next thing. And the trains. I'm still waiting on the trains. I think probably a number of people with the coronavirus, have already been on the trains, and the government knows, obviously, there's someone out there smarter than I am thinking through all this stuff, some Japanese person, right? But they know that if people stop using the trains, that will severely affect the economy. Because trains in Japan is sort of the preferred form of transportation for most people. And people stop taking the trains, that means no one's going shopping, no one's buying anything. Japan is a huge consumer society. It's just a huge consumer society. Japanese are voracious consumers, absolutely, right? A friend of mine, I won't say his name, I won't say anything, but a friend of mine, someone I haven't seen for a number of years, he always used to, because Japanese are not religious in the sense that a lot of Caucasians are, like Americans or Europeans are. They're not Christian, and they're not Buddhist. They don't really have a religion. And my friend always used to say Louis Vuitton is their god, right? Because they love fashion. They love buying things. And it's true. They're very good consumers. They buy a lot of stuff. So if people aren't taking the trains, that means, no one's buying anything. The economy is going to grind to a halt pretty quick. So I think the government knows that, and the last thing they will talk about is, this person here was taking the train every single day, and they know they had the virus, or probably for at least a week taking this train line. They have the virus now. You're talking quickly tens of thousands, if not more. The one train station in Tokyo I heard has 21 million people go through it a day or something like that. It's just a crazy number. But even if it was 10% of that, 2 million, 2.5 million people a day, or 2.1 million people a day, you're talking about the infection rate just skyrocketing overnight. So that's the next thing I'm waiting for, right? And schools, I'm still, wondering about schools. So now there are teachers out there who have it. There was another case. This one is in Hokkaido. I know that for a fact. It's a person who works, I guess it would be like the lunch lady. She helps serve the lunch at a school. They don't really have cafeterias here in Japan at school. The kids eat in their classrooms. It's a completely different style than America, but it sounds like this school maybe had something different, and this lady works part-time, or until now she does. Works part-time. She helps serve lunch at the school to all the students. She's got the coronavirus. So I would imagine, everyone she worked with would be all, school-related people, cooks and whatnot. And then, all the students she's had contact with. I mean, if I think back to my days going to elementary school in America, if one of the cooks who was serving you had the coronavirus, oh my God, that would have been like how many kids at my school? 800 kids could have, potentially gotten the virus. And then those 800 would go home and give it to their, siblings and their parents. And pretty soon you got like 5,000 people now who've got it. And then, those people, how many of your parents are out there working and, this and that. It's going to spread like crazy. It's going to be fast. The other thing, these masks, they're telling everyone to wear masks. Those are not to be found in any stores. My wife has been looking for a week now, and she's been to every store she could think of within about a 20-mile radius. No one has a mask. They don't know when they're going to be in. Alcohol spray, we can still buy that. You could spray stuff down with it. I think a good option will be to make your own mask. My wife and I were looking at one store the other day, no masks, but they had gauze, cotton gauze, like that gauze cloth. And I said to my wife, why don't you buy that and make your own mask? Then you could wash it, right? And you could wash it in hot water or, whatever, and make sure the thing is really, really clean, doesn't have anything on it. So I think that will be a good option for people, because masks are going to run out, and you'll want to have something to wipe surfaces down. But, if this thing is spread through air, through breathing, then you're kind of stuck. And I will give you one tip, one tip that I heard worked really well during World War II and World War I. During World War I, there was, I want to call it the Black Plague, but was it like the Spanish flu or something? What was going through Europe at that time? I forget the name of it now, because I've been doing a lot of research and I've got all these different things in my head. But anyway, during World War I, it was pretty serious. My grandfather was there, and eucalyptus oil. Eucalyptus oil, if you've got a humidifier, even one of those small, like a one-room humidifier, put some eucalyptus oil in there. That will kill a lot of stuff. I've even used it through the years myself. My one son my kids rarely get sick at all, and he had a bad cough, and I put that in a, bought a humidifier, filled the thing up with water and put not very much eucalyptus oil in there, mixed it around, turned it on, ran that for 2 nights, and whatever he had that was causing the really serious cough was gone after 2 nights. So, and I've heard stories about guys using it in World War I to fight off different illnesses that were going around in the wintertime during the war in the European front. Okay, so eucalyptus oil may be something you want to look into. I think that's about all I've got here. Let me just go through my notes quickly to see if I missed anything. Yes, in Japan here, they were talking about these employees who are being bullied. This organization they work for saying, hey, these are possible human rights violations if you're being prejudiced against the people who were helping these patients with the coronavirus. Oh, and one more thing. Let's see, I'm trying to think of where this came from now. Let me just stop this a second so I can remember this. Okay, yeah. One more thing I wanted to say, important thing. The virus is spreading really quickly in South Korea. I hear in Italy. It's in Iran, and they can't figure out why. How did it get there? Places that there shouldn't be anybody having this thing. Well, I saw some really interesting data today out of China, And this was taken from someone I don't know how this worked. It's someone I saw on Twitter, Chinese lady on Twitter, someone had taken cell phone data from people who were from Wuhan, and they found from cell phone data that a number of people had escaped Wuhan. Just let me look down at my notes here. I've got them in a different spot. So let's see, from February 1st to the 15th, they figure 138,700 people escaped from Wuhan. 138,700 people escaped from Wuhan between February 1st and the 15th. And then February 15th, just by itself, another 28,000 escaped. So you've got, oh boy, over 160,000 people who escaped from Wuhan between the 1st and the 15th. Now, I don't blame the people. I've seen some pretty horrible videos of what's going on in Wuhan. I don't know if you guys have seen any of that stuff where you are, if you have access to it, or if you know how to access certain information. Some horrible, horrible videos. In my opinion, people are probably being rounded up and killed in China. This is just my opinion, okay? From the videos I've seen, people are probably who have, if they think you have a fever and think you have the virus, I think they're rounding people up and just killing them. And because some of the videos I've seen, the way the police are acting and the way the people themselves who are being dragged away from their homes are acting, it looks to me like it's pretty serious. And I think these hospitals that they're putting up, that's just a place to put you to die, in my opinion. It's just beds. There's just, beds. There's, just horrible conditions, like prison type, worse than prison type conditions. I do not think these are places that they're hoping to cure anyone. That's just my opinion. Okay. So, you've got 160-some thousand people who escaped, who could most likely, let's say 60% of them are infected. 60%. You got over 80,000 infected people spreading out across the planet. My God, what is that going to do, right? We have no idea how many people had the virus before we even knew what it was. There was a military Olympic Games at the end of last year, with militaries from all over the world participating in Wuhan. Was the thing already let loose then? We don't know. So, man, there's lots of stuff to think about, right? You got to keep yourself safe, keep your family safe. So, like I said, I just made this video because I have a list of things, sort of when the shit hits the fan list, and these things are getting checked off. First thing was, kids at a school with it. Next thing was a teacher at a school. The next thing was transportation, someone who works at the toll booths. My God, if you get a bunch of people who man the toll booths and they all get sick, you close the toll booths down. Well, then that part of the highway, what, no one can use it? No one can enter or exit? How's that going to work? And when you talk about transportation, it's not going to be long until a train driver gets it, right? A train driver. I don't know how the train drivers work. I don't know any train drivers personally. I have a pretty good idea of how things are because I take the trains a lot. You see the drivers, you see where their office is and all that. My God, if one driver gets it and he's sitting in a room with 20 other guys who are drivers, and then they all get it, and then they pass it around to everyone on all the different shifts that they work, you could easily have 100 train drivers who can't drive the train. Then what do? It's not like you can just pull some dude off the street and say, hey, can you drive the train for a while? It doesn't work that way. These are some critical, these are jobs that take a little bit of skill and training, right? You wouldn't want, same with the bus driver. You wouldn't want to just, I wouldn't want to be a bus driver. I've driven big trucks. I worked construction for a number of, many, many years ago when I was a young guy. And in a pinch, I could drive a bus. In a survival situation, yeah, I'll drive the damn bus. But I don't want to be the guy who's driving the bus, picking people up all day. I'd be too nerve-wracked about it, right? So some of these jobs, it's not like you can easily be replaced. So I said a train driver just now, a bus driver. What about a bus driver? Bus drivers, there's a lot of buses in Japan. Public transportation is really good in Japan. Bus driver, he might, he'll see several hundred people a day. Absolutely. What do you do if all the bus drivers in the city come down with the virus? No buses are running. So you can see how the dominoes, they start falling, it's going to really affect a lot of things. So wherever you guys are in the world, please listen to what I'm saying. I hope it doesn't get to be like this where you are, but just think to yourself, where are you? What's your situation? What could potentially happen to you, okay? Okay, you guys, I feel a little weird saying I hope you liked the video, leave a comment and that kind of thing, but it is what it is. If you've got a comment, please leave it for me. I like to hear feedback. If there's some information you'd like to know about Japan that I haven't talked about, drop me a comment. Of course, if you give me a thumbs up, that helps me with algorithms or whatever they got going on YouTube these days. And anyway, I'm only doing this because I think probably what I'm seeing here is just going to be a precursor to what you're going to see where you are. Okay, so if I can just help some people prepare, whether that's mentally or physically or whatever, getting all your ducks in a row, keeping your family safe, especially your kids, if I can do that, that's all that matters to me. Okay, you guys, you take care, and when I get some new information, I'll put a video out. See ya.